Hello friends, welcome to Engineering Basic. Now today we will discuss about the component of DBMS and database schema. And if you haven't subscribed this channel, then please go and subscribe to watch my further video. Now let's discuss the component of DBMS, means the component of database management system. There are 5 important components of DBMS. They are hardware, software, data, user, and procedure. Let us discuss each of component of DBMS one by one. Hardware, the physical computer system that allow physical access to data. That is hardware, or we can tell the hardware is the actual computer system used for keeping and accessing the database, right? And the DBMS hardware consists of secondary storage device, usually hard disks on which the database physically reside. And when we talk about the hardware of the DBMS, we refer to the hard disks where the data is stored. Understood? We refer to the hard disks where the data is stored. Now let's talk about the software. The software is the actual program. The software is the actual program that allows user to access, maintain, and update physical data. And we can tell also the software is the actual DBMS, and it is the layer of software between the user and hardware. Between the user and hardware. User needs some kind of software to perform insert, update, delete, or trim operation on the database. What are these? Update, delete, trim, insert. These are the SQL queries of the DBMS, right? Which is kept on the hard disks. These are kept on the hard disks. So the software is used to perform this operation in DBMS. Now, the third component of DBMS is data. Data means it is stored physically on the storage device. In simple way, we can tell data is stored physically on the storage device. Or why the question can ask why the data is the third component of DBMS, right? In examination or anyone can ask. Then we have to tell because DBMS is made of from database. So the database of a data is the third component of database, and it is important to collect the retrieve data to maintain the database. Understood about data? Now let's talk about the fourth component of DBMS. The fourth component of DBMS is user. And there are number of users who can access or retrieve data on demand. Using what? Using the application for the DBMS. These are NAB user, online user, application programmer, and DBA. DBA full form is database administrator. Database administrator. Now let's talk one by one the Nebia user, online user, and application program and DBA. For Nebia user, for example, we'll take of ATM machine, right? For Nebia user, we'll take the example of ATM machine. The ATM, the user, we know who is the user. Users are we. Means the user uses ATM machine to withdraw the money. Why we use ATM machine? Of course, to withdraw the money. From what? From the bank. Then he is acting as a Nebia user. Means if we are using ATM machine to withdraw the money from the bank, then we are the Nebia user, right? And actually the user of ATM machine is making a transaction over the database without knowing anything about it. So the ATM user is Navia user. Why the ATM users are Navia user? Because the user of ATM machine is making a transaction over the database. Where? Over the database without knowing anything about it. So the ATM user is also known as Navia user. Right. Now let's talk about the online user. What is meant by online user? For example, we'll take the bank staff. The bank staff who is sitting and maintaining the database, that is online user. Understood? Who is online user? The bank staff who is sitting and maintaining the database are called online user. Or we can also tell when we make online transaction or when we make online purchase, we are occurring as a online user. In simple, we can tell online user means if we are purchasing anything online like laptop, right? Earphone, headphone, anything we are purchasing online and we are making what? Online transaction. Then we are occurring as a online user. Understood about online user and naive user? Now let's talk about the program application programmer. What is meant by application programmer, right? Application programmer are those users who actually write the program. Means if we write any program in any language of program like C, C++, Python, Java, in any programming, then we are acting as a application program. Right? We can tell when we write a program, we are acting as a application program. And the user who use the program is called online user. If we are using the program, that is we are online user, right? As a student, for example, of we are taking the example of a student. If as a student, when we write a program in any programming language, right? What are the programming language? Programming language are C, C++, Java, Python, and so on. These are the programming language. In that case, we are actually acting as a application programmer. Understood about application programmer? Now let's talk about DBA. What is DBA? DBA means database administrators, right? And it is the final types of user. The DBA, this is the database administrator. I have told now also, right? Who manage all the data and control all the user. DBA means DBA manage the database and control on the user, all the user. Understood about DBA? Like manager. In any company where we are going to work, and what they were managing to us, do work this and that, right? In that case, and they were also managing the database. In that case, they were DBA, means database administrator. Understood of DBA? Now let's talk about procedure. And it is the last component of DBMS, right? It defines a set of rules. Procedure means set of rules that should be clearly defined. That should be clearly defined and followed by the user. And we can also define it is the way and means to access the data or information by the user. By the user. Now let's talk about the schema, database schema. Database schema. First, we should know what is schema. Then we'll know about the database schema. Schema means nothing but to design a database. Schema means to design of a database. Design. We are designing anything, right? In a database that is known as schema. Now let's talk about database schema. Database schema is the skeleton structure that provides the logical view of entire database. Which database? The entire database. It defines how the data is organized and how the relation among them are associated. It means it describes how the data is arranged and how the data is assessed, and they are connection with what? With each other or with one another, right? And database schema outline its entities and their relationship, and it includes a description of a database which can be presented in a schema diagrams. Now let's talk about its categories. Database schema are divided into what? In two categories. These are physical database schema and logical database schema. Now let's talk about the physical database schema. What is meant by physical database schema? Physical database schema means this schema penetrated to the actual storage of data, and it forms storage like files, indices, etc. And it also defines how the data will be stored in a secondary storage. Or we can tell this schema is concerned with data storage and its various forms, such as we have read here file, indices, and so on. It specifies how data will be saved in secondary storage, and also it describes the database design at physical level. What it describes? It describes the database design at physical level. So what is meant by physical level? We have talked about physical level. It describes the database design at physical level. So what is physical level? So physical level means that level which will dealing with the data structure, which will dealing with the that data structure in which the database will be stored, and the data will be stored in the database in a raw, in a raw. Understood? Raw is which if this is the table in this way and this is raw, a database schema can this is the raw and this will be column, right? So that it is known as the physical level. Understood about physical database schema? And if you haven't understood, then please comment me, and if you are getting any confused, then you can comment me, and I have given my WhatsApp, Facebook, and mail also. You can text me in any one, right? Now let's come on the topic. The second one is the logical database schema. This schema defines all the logical concentrate that needs to be applied on the data stored, and it also defines the table, views, and integrity constants. Means this schema provides all the logical requirements. What? It provides all the logical requirements that must be applied on the data stored. That must be applied in the to the data stored, and it defines table, views, and data structure. Or we can tell it describe the database design at logical level. In that physical level, what it describes? It describes at physical level, and in logical it describes design at logical level. Means now we can tell what is logical level, right? Anyone will ask what is meant by logical level, and you have to give answer. So logical level is the secondary higher level, and it explain what does logical level explain. It explain what data is stored in the database and how those data are related to one another. That is the logical database and or logical level. So these are the logical database schema. Thanks for watching this video, and if you haven't subscribed this channel, then please go and subscribe to watch my further video. Thanks.